It just needs to be.
Let me call the meeting together, the special trustee meeting of the Indian River County Hospital District. I'd like to thank the trustees for all their attention on this very important issue of funding of maternity in the women's healthcare program, and thank those who are joining us on Zoom. To my view and mine, this is kind of an epic making engagement of our board here, considering it was back in 2018 when our board initiated the partnership program with the partnership with Indian River Hospital. Since then, even a stronger relationship has developed, particularly in the working relationship that Frank Isley has had with Rick Ruff and the CEO of Cleveland Clinic and their board. So we're really done a fine job bringing all this together. And of course, our legal team with Jennifer and Dana have been working with the legal team from Cleveland to fine tune the specific aspects of this amendment. I think it's important to know this is amendment to the partners agreement. So in that regard, it does, a question I have, cover both prenatal and postnatal care, as well as maternity, obstetrics and gynecology, and all that encompasses. So with that introduction, let me turn the presentation over to our executive director, Frank Isley, along with our two attorneys, Jennifer and Dana, and see what questions the board has had since this was initiated and been reviewed individually and now as a group for approval.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Cooney. I don't know that I have a lot to say. You know, Jennifer, if you and Dana would like to take kind of the next steps and.
Sure, so what you have before you is the first amendment to the amended and restated agreement for operation and funding of the Partners in Women's Health Program. We did trustee one-on-ones to obtain your input and answer your questions, and now we're here before the public to have a public discussion and call for public comment before approval of the document. So again, what this is in response to the hospital's request. They did put in an application for funding, and they're requesting $2 million to support a portion of their maternity services. And so it's a collaborative agreement between the parties to maintain maternity services within our community. And so after much review and discussion, it was felt that the best way to accomplish that was to amend the Partners in Women's Health Program agreement that we already have. So that is what is before you. Their agreement is termed to the initial 10-year term of the lease that we entered into in 2018. So it's termed to December 31st of 2028 to support CCIRH's maternity services. Maternity services is defined to include but not be limited to labor, delivery, and obstetric care, collectively maternity services. See here. The funding amount that's requested and that the parties have been discussing is $2 million, and it's important to understand that that's gonna be paid in 12, I believe 12 or is it 11?
It'll be 11.
11 equal
Right.
monthly installments.
$181,000.
That would begin only upon the district's approval of this agreement. And so in order to enter into the agreement, there are some conditions in this document. One of them is application for funding. They have already submitted that. We've made you aware of that. The second one is collaboration. It's the intention of the parties in entering into the amendment to continue ongoing collaboration as it relates to the provision of maternity services. The parties agreed under the terms set forth before you to operate under the same structure as a collaborative committee, which is in section 3 of the agreement, and this committee will then meet 6 times per year. So that would replace the current partners task force that meets only 3 times a year. So you're gonna get 3 more meetings. And Alan Jones currently heads up the task force. So it would be appropriate if you do adopt this agreement, I believe, to take some action as well to appoint a trustee to continue on in that role via now what would be the collaborative committee. In addition, the district intends to hold monthly meetings to discuss securing sustainable maternity services here in Indian River County. Following adoption of this agreement with potential participation from key stakeholders from the community. They agreed to, the hospital has agreed as a condition to this to renovate the labor and delivery unit. And as I understand it, that's supposed to be done no later than 12 months after the effective date of this amendment, but Frank's even advised me that he's received an invitation for
I
something
got a ribbon.
in December.
I did, December 15th, the ribbon cutting.
So I do
It sounds
think
like they're
that's
discussing.
a good sign,
15th.
but the agreement would give them 12 months from the latest agreement, but it sounds like they're gonna get that done sooner. There is a clinical outcome requirement here for the hospital to continue to build upon its high quality clinical outcomes, continue to report outcomes to the collaborative committee as outlined above. And then there's also a feasibility piece in here, that the hospital will advise the district on the categories and evaluating criteria deemed pertinent to assessing the feasibility of establishing a level 2 NICU. I know we've had some discussion about that, and that's been something, that you have been interested in hearing more about and understanding. As far as a deliverable, the parties agreed mutually that it is their intentions to collaborate in good faith to apply for funding annually and to support the provision of labor and delivery services through December 31st of 2028 at a minimum. And additionally, it is the intention to have a final deliverable on the district side detailing potential strategies for sustainable maternity services in Indian River County. One thing I really want to point out is that if we enter into this agreement, there's also a provision under 5, on the document page 4, that takes away what is in the lease, that would allow them to basically cancel maternity services with very short notice to us due to a facility with services that are the same or greater within a 25-mile radius. So while we are funding this agreement, they cannot exercise that right.
And this, Michael, and if I read that and understand this right, that's not just through December 31st, there's an addition of any subsequent.
Subsequent terms.
Right, if we continue to fund,
That's correct.
Correct.
second paragraph under number 5.
Specifically on page 4, under 5, conflicts between agreements. So what it says is, during the term of this amendment, CCIRH agrees that this amendment shall take precedent over the provision of section 6 as it applies to subsection 6A of the amended and restated lease, so that's from 2018. And CCIRH may not elect to discontinue provision of maternity care during the term of this amendment or any subsequent term during which CCIRH has received funding for maternity services under this amendment, even if there's another health system or hospital that operates maternity care service at a comparable level to CCIRH within the greater Indian River County or within a 25-mile radius of CCIRH, provided that district had provided the funding contemplated herein and is not otherwise a violation of the terms. So that is.
So it
very
opens the
strong
door
heads up.
for a continued relationship and they.
Right, and it
What is
not
the
only a
dating?
continued relationship, but also should give some security to mothers in the
That's my
community.
point, correct.
And
That's my
people in the
point.
community that work in the labor and delivery
Yeah.
services locally,
Yeah.
that want to stay here.
What will be the dates on this contract?
It would be signed,
Agreement or
the
whatever.
effective date would be the date that the last of the two parties signs it, so if you approve it.
But for how long?
So the term is through December 31st of 2028, it was termed with that.
3 years.
Okay, so 3 years. So what you just got through saying about amendment to that lease is, it is up
So
until
it's termed
2028.
through December 31st of 2028, which is the first 10-year term of the lease,
Right.
but. If we were to then continue to fund maternity services even beyond that date. As long as we're funding maternity services, what this is saying is they can't exercise that right in the lease.
So we are funding them $2 million this year.
Over 11-month installments, yeah.
Why 11 installments?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's
That's
just,
weird.
it's, what made sense in our initial discussions was. To take those payments, I think you have a much better partnership when you're making monthly payments and you're both working towards a goal. Than paying someone $2 million and say, now let's get the job done.
But they're needing the dollars this year and they're in a fiscal year. Why would we be holding up into another year? That's
This is-
silly.
No,
Yeah,
it's this year.
It's,
It's this year, but we're paying them out next year and when's their fiscal year? When is their?
I
when-
believe they're on calendar year.
Calendar year, so we're gonna be paying a lot of it out in another year. Do they need these 2 million? My understanding was the 2 million was to help them help them out this year, where they're losing dollars.
In my discussion with Dr. Rothman, what we talked about was monthly installments. He didn't push for a lump sum. He didn't do any of that. That's why the language is there.
And to clarify, we're going to be making the payments of the 2 million through the December,
No, through September
or
30th.
September 30, excuse me.
That's what I was.
Right, September, I was looking at the wrong spot.
And-
That buys us through December 31 of 2028.
Correct.
We do not have to fund them every year going forward to get that.
Looking at this point to fund for the next 11 months, and then the intent and the spirit of the agreement is to then
Whatever.
collaborate going forward, and it does say that in.
Correct.
But you're not binding
I want
dollars
us-
beyond 11
So that
months.
you know where my mind is going to go, I think I need to share. I am supportive of supporting Cleveland Clinic and the labor and delivery. Okay, I had a difficulty with how I felt being rushed in this particular document today. I saw it Wednesday of last week. An hour was made available for me, but I only had 30 minutes, given my personal circumstances. Couldn't see it again until Friday afternoon. I did talk to Frank about that, and he mentioned that one of us or one or more of the trustees felt like we needed to have this meeting at this time frame. So in the event the public feels that this was rushed, I don't understand, we could have done, why this wasn't done at the next month's, or this month's,
I think there was some interest.
chairman's meeting and, or so forth, so.
You answer that, but I think there's some interest in Cleveland Clinic side that they, in Indian River Hospital, that they wanted this moved along as we wanted to move along in a timely fashion.
Well,
What's the reason for it?
I talked to Dr. Rothman on that point. He said,
Yeah.
it wasn't this urgent. So the question I'm asking is, why is it this urgent?
I'll answer that. I'm happy to answer. So, and I've mentioned this to you before, Paul. The reason why we're having this meeting tonight is because we wanted to make sure it was scheduled around the same time as all the town halls we did to guarantee participation. We wanted to make sure that if folks did want to join and understand the outcome from the community, they'd be available to do so. We have 4 items on the agenda for November. We wanted to take the time to focus solely on this topic as an individual discussion point. We thought that was worth it.
Well, Frank, when you and I spoke, the primary driver, and maybe I drew an erroneous inference, was that a trustee really was insisting on this, and my concern that I expressed to you was we wouldn't get input because it's rushed, and anyhow, I would have liked this to have been out in the public a little bit more. At our last board meeting, let the public know at that point, hey, we're gonna be having a meeting soon. And I'm having this conversation, I think the public's gonna be supportive of our support of labor and delivery, okay? This is about avoidance of unforced errors, in my view. And for future purposes, I think that we need to have an awareness of, do we have to do things in a rushed way? Speed kills. And I think we saw that with the VNA situation. You know, we made a vote. I hate to use that as an example because of my involvement with that, but that's a concern that I have. And I wanted to find out what the dynamics were in having the meeting tonight. I think I've been informed, and I'd rather not find myself in this situation again. I would much rather have more lead time. While yes, we went through a long process in terms of the town halls. I attended all 3 of them. But the particulars of this document that is anchoring what we're doing is its own issue, own topic that transcends what we've done before. And anyhow, and I've got some questions because again, that I would have liked to have more ability to filter this through, but I've got some questions that we all probably do that I want to go over. But my primary right now was to discern why we're here right now under these circumstances, and it's been answered.
I mean, we did. In my experience working with this board, when we have a pivotal action like this, it makes sense to give it a special meeting so that it has specific focus and we have the opportunity to discuss it embedded and it's not just lost under something like old business or other business on our agenda. We also certainly would have liked to have potentially brought it forward last month at your meetings we just had, but we've only had 4 board members. And
Well-
wanted to ensure you, all of you had the opportunity to weigh in, and so we also decided an evening meeting so that anyone that works could participate along the lines of what we did with the town halls was appropriate. So that was why it was done in such a way to facilitate public participation.
I don't have a problem with it being set on its own. It's not being able to see the document until Wednesday of last. Open to criticism by rushing it the way that we did, as important as it is.
Me, as I try to say, I don't think, first of all, it's being rushed. I think it's put out for our board to review. And that's our role, is to review these documents. They're very important. This is a very important decision. As I mentioned, we've been in contact, in collaboration with Cleveland Clinic to make this happen in a timely fashion. And not necessarily to just put it out so everyone can comment without the due process. So I think it's not been rushed, in my opinion, Paul, and I think it gives the board the chance to really come together to discuss it. And I might say, and Alan may want to comment, but the reason we are doing this is the success that our maternity program, fetal programs have had over the years. We're in the top 5% of all of Florida. Maternal deaths are 0. Infant mortality is statewide as high as any other district. So that's why we want to progress with this in a formal board-driven fashion.
I'm not arguing with that, not arguing with that.
And as I said earlier, I think, Frank may want to comment, but the information that I got through Frank and Rick Rothman was they wanted to tie this up and move on with this and get it done rather
So,
than.
Perception in the community.
I have questions of Jennifer, the deliverable, what is that just the funding over the period of time? Is that under paragraph 4G?
The deliverable is to come up with something to sustain maternity services long-term in our county, so that would be something we would be looking to work towards while we're providing this partial funding to keep the services in the community. So I don't have a finite answer to that today, but the goal would be then for this collaborative committee to work to come up with a sustainability plan, as I understand.
Correct. And this, Michael, I noted the last sentence of that section, referenced that while participation from Cleveland Clinic in the final deliverable is preferred, such participation is not mandatory, but I think they're in a place. Yeah,
Well,
that they will be engaged, I'm certain of that.
Our September meeting, I made a statement, it was very intentional, may have ruffled some feathers, and that was whether or not we were a proper match with Cleveland Clinic. I asked that, and I would not have posed that thought if it hadn't been for Dr. Rothman being here. I felt pretty sure, while it may have appeared to be a softball to the face, I kind of felt like I was giving him a softball and he delivered very well. I as long as he's at the helm, I have a great deal of confidence in their commitment to continue labor and delivery, and this is a collaborative effort. So that is a big driver for me in my support of this.
Although you said in September publicly that they
Absolutely.
were supporting it.
Exactly. And also we have the special act as a backstop. And I say the special act, I'm going to keep reminding us, we do have rulemaking authority over every property that we own.
Yes.
In the event it gets sideways, we can adopt rules requiring certain things to exist there. because that is also tied to our obligation to provide a level of service through the hospital. That's the bigger backstop for me. Those two things.
Dr. Mackett, Dr. Mackett.
Yeah, trustee Westcott, listening to your comments, particularly about Dr. Rothman being at the helm. That's one of the reasons I support this amendment. Is because I believe it permits Cleveland Clinic to participate, to keep maternity care and labor delivery open regardless of who is at the helm. So I fully support this.
Yeah, that, this Alan Jones, I'd like, but Paul has a fair point about, that I think is worth addressing. If it had been up to me, we would have released this document last Wednesday or even Tuesday for the public. But in terms of this being rushed, I don't feel that way. Dr. Rothman came before us last October. And among the things he said was labor and delivery is a loss. Shortly after that, I may have the sequence wrong, Martin County closed. And they weren't the only ones. There were hospitals all around the country closing. Because the economics for a hospital of labor and delivery is, I think, embarrassing. On the part of Kaiser Family Foundation, I've been introduced to a study by Jenny that says the average cost of a delivery in the United States recently is about $20,000. Average reimbursement for private insurance is about 7. And it depends on the risks of different variations, but for most people, that's right. And for Medicaid, which is half of the births in our county, and about 3/4 of those at Cleveland Clinic, Indian River, is about 3,000. So it's impossible to provide the level of service that Cleveland Clinic is and the outcomes that was mentioned as being, and we've been talking about this for the better part of a year. And I'll admit, I get frustrated with how long it takes to write a document like this. Dana did a great job. I applaud Jennifer. Cleveland Clinic did their part. But it's like watching grass grow. But now we got it. I'm anxious to get forward to develop a sustainable solution. I thought Frank, and I've told him this personally, and Bill, and in fact, to all the trustees, deciding to do the public meetings and let the public weigh in on this 3 different times. I wasn't here, but I watched every one of them on recordings. Paul and others were there for every one of those meetings. Cleveland Clinic also listened to these meetings. So I think we're all in agreement now. We want this to go forward in a sustainable way. We want mothers to be sure this service is gonna be here. We want fathers to know that their wives are gonna be cared for in our county. This is important to the public. So we've been talking about this for a year. I want to get off of first base and start heading toward home. You use the baseball analogy, so I'm ready to get moving with this. And I applaud Dana and Jennifer for the details in this. And I think we all discussed them. I do think we should answer any questions anybody has. So, but I'm ready to move forward.
And Alan, I appreciate your comment, and to clarify, it's just the consummation of the document is what I meant by rush.
I know.
So just to get that clarified.
Other comments, questions?
I'll weigh in this, Michael, on a couple of things. I mean, this has been an issue for a long time, and I can remember voicing this very openly many months ago. I'm sure if I called Dr. Rothman, he's gonna take my call, and I don't bother him. There may be occasion in the future I will, but I'm sure he'd take the call. But my sense is, from what I've gleaned from either conversations with Frank or in the general public, is we, in giving this focus and raising the issue, unfortunately, shone a light on something that Cleveland Clinic was bothered by. There are just people in the community who don't understand, will never understand exactly what we do. Why we were taking the path and trying to be proactive on this, which we thought was prudent. And I think Bill said, he hadn't said it to me, and I didn't know if he'd said it to Frank or anybody else, but I think they feel good about this and are ready to get it put to bed so they can move on. Hence, they're having a ribbon cutting on December 15th, so everybody can see the transformation, because that's been a big part of it. But it's just it's an unfortunate consequence with some members of the public, and I don't think the vast majority, because we know what the public thinks based on the survey and based on their comments. I think they'll be supportive. And the last thing I'll say is, I hear Paul, and maybe that's a heads up to staff that when we're in these situations, let's be a little more, let's talk a little bit more about it. Let's get the timetable set. Let's do what we can so that everybody feels that the documents are available and out there, and things get noticed well, so that you don't want to stifle in any way, chill, I guess is the legal term I've heard before, that input. Although I think the vast majority of any input we do take or would have taken from others would have been supportive of the action, because this has all come out of all the work that we've done. I'm done.
I would say, Michael, in agreement with your comments that the survey and then the three public meetings were a great indication to taxpayers that this is what they want to do. And to my mind, the providing the funds to have Cleveland Clinic sustain this really is in response to our taxpayers or the people of this county, that we're helping them out by having this labor and delivery and full maternity services available in this county rather than having to travel someplace else. So that's always been my view on it. Other comments? Do we have any public comments that we should have before we call for a vote?
We need a motion.
I know we won't.
No.
I'm just seeing if there's any. No public comments. Okay, should we have a motion, please, related to this?
I will make
proposal?
a motion that we adopt this agreement as read.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries.
And as a postscript, I'm looking forward to developing strategy of capturing the babies that we talked about.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
last meeting. And Alan, I appreciate the work you're gonna be doing for us. I know that you're gonna be very.
I haven't been selected.
So I was just gonna say, the next thing you need to do is you need a motion to appoint a trustee to the collaborative committee.
I move Alan.
Section 3 of this agreement.
Second. Okay, Ron Jones has been nominated to be the chairman of the collaborative committee. I think is the appropriate.
The trustee appointee.
Appointee and potential chairman. And as part of his current role already is serving as the chairman of the partners. Committee. So that's
That makes a
an
lot of
amendment to that. That's a logical extension. I don't. Yes,
Do we have discussion?
do we have a second?
Yes.
Yes.
That's discussion.
Yeah, trustee Mackett. I fully support Alan in this role. I think he has been instrumental, particularly in developing the quality metrics.
Yeah.
And has helped partners deliver the high quality that they have. And I think he deserves great credit, and I would like to see him continue as well.
Thank you.
In my experience, substituting when he had a little version, I would agree with you exactly. It really was so. The whole, as I mentioned earlier, I think the whole initiative is very commendable for our board to trustees to put forth and for the community to take advantage of. So Any other comments? We'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you. very
No,
much.
we can't vote.
We didn't have a vote yet?
Yeah, no, it's just let the comments.
And do we
Oh,
have
but on
to,
Alan's. oh, on
Public
Alan's-
comment.
do we have to have public comment? before?
Yeah, we have a public comment on appointing Alan Jones as the chair of our collaborative. Anyone comment? Okay, now I'll call the vote. Oh, no, yes, sir. You wanna,
No,
now you wanna
go
step
ahead,
back?
go ahead.
Okay, all those in favor of having Alan Jones lead our collaborative committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. None.
I didn't hear anything about compensation.
Yeah, that's right, you didn't.
Well,
You get the same amount, I guess, the
Same as you
integrity
do,
committee,
yeah,
there you go.
that's
Okay, enjoy it.
You know, I would
Probably
like to
private
make
play.
just a brief comment, sort of for what it's worth. But right now, there's a proposal being bandied about, which trustee Westcott has made us aware of a few months ago, to eliminate property taxes. And there are various amendments. I would like to suggest that this is an illustration of how this hospital district could make a difference in Indian River County. And I'm glad we're here to be able to do this. And without the property taxes, no telling what happens. All bets are off on a number of things. But this is just one illustration. I just thought underscoring it is worth something to me, maybe nobody else.
Well, I would say in defense of Frank, he has been in contact with our local representative, communications. Locally and in letters. I'm not sure we've heard a lot back, but. We need to
We
work on
haven't,
that.
but we're not gonna stop. We're gonna keep
Well-
the message out there.
And
Here we
Paul,
go, Paul.
Paul, the pivot for us is more than just this agreement. It's gonna, you know, public-private, in a lot of respects to foster an environment where the members of the community, the patients actually have choice. That we encourage. I think it's a little touchy for Cleveland to be able to encourage that choice because of federal law, but I think we can. I think there is an energy that our public meetings had that we should use quickly for public and private collaboration to put together a financial war chest to help on this topic, so to speak. So, yeah, I think we're just starting.
Let me say this, Frank, guys, let me say if I may, that those discussions have already begun on the public philanthropic. When it comes to next month at the board meeting, you're gonna hear about our grant. Federal grant opportunities to bring money in for maternity and other services. You're gonna hear that grant research report from Jordan Flick. She's gonna present at our November chairman's, and she'll have a lot of good news to share. Which is non-competitive with all our local organizations.
Right.
This is special district or governmental agency only.
And we'll be having a presentation by the chair of the Indian River Community Foundation and
Right.
their potential role, as we talked earlier, that this is a collaborative
Certainly
effort
some opportunities.
Yeah,
among the whole
the
community.
timing is right,
Yes.
yeah.
Great, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.